the haunting of Hollow Creek Hotel. Ah, the allure of isolation, a concept deeply rooted in both quantum mechanics and human psychology. But before we delve into that rabbit hole, picture this: a night so profoundly dark that photons seem hesitant to make their journey to Earth. Rain cascades, not merely obeying gravity, but seemingly accelerating under some anomalous force, perhaps an enthusiast's nod to modified Newtonian dynamics. Welcome to Hollow Creek Hotel, a paragon of Victorian architecture, albeit with a facade that's aged like milk rather than wine. The kind of place that makes you question whether the creaking you hear is the settling of wood or the whisper of existential dread. Some places aren't meant to be disturbed, but who are we to resist the tantalizing pull of curiosity? After all, isn't the pursuit of the unknown what propels us forward? Meet Alice Summers, a name as unassuming as her profession is adventurous. An intrepid travel journalist with accolades longer than a CVS receipt, she's on a quest. Not just any quest, mind you, but one to uncover hidden gems that make TripAdvisor look like child's play. As she approaches the hotel, she notes the grandiosity tempered by neglect. The architecture is a melange of Gothic and neoclassical elements, a structural engineer's nightmare and dream all at once. Interesting, the Ionic columns are bearing more load than they should, a testament to overambitious 19th century design. Inside, the silence is palpable, not the comforting silence of solitude, but the disquieting kind that makes one hyper-aware of their own biological processes. The heartbeat, the subtle tinnitus, the stomach digesting that ill-advised gas station sandwich. She's informed that the hotel is fully booked, a statistical improbability given the remote location and the abysmal Yelp reviews. But numbers never lie, unless manipulated, of course. Eli, whose demeanor could best be described as cryptically foreboding, offers a warning masked in the politeness of hospitality. Miss, it's advisable to remain in your room after dark. Alice raises an eyebrow. Is that in the brochure? Eli smiles faintly. House rules. The receptionist avoids eye contact with a dedication typically reserved for novice monks or people who owe you money. Alice, ever the investigator, takes mental notes. Her key card, yes, key card in a place that predates microchip technology, malfunctions repeatedly. Electromagnetic interference? Unlikely, but intriguing. In the hallways, she hears whispers, not the kind arising from laminar airflow over uneven surfaces, but articulated syllables, phonemes forming words just beyond the threshold of comprehension. As she prepares for sleep, the ambient noises defy the Doppler effect. Footsteps echo above her, an architectural impossibility given she's on the top floor. Perhaps a misestimation? She calculates quickly. No, definitely the top floor. Her dreams are vivid, infiltrated by images of past guests whose fashion sensibilities suggest a timeline spanning several decades. They seem trapped, their pleas for help muffled as if hindered by layers of space-time distortion. She awakens at 3:15 a.m., the so-called witching hour, though skeptics would attribute this to the circadian rhythm's nadir. Through the window, she glimpses shadowy figures. Pareidolia, surely. But their patterns of movement suggest intentionality. Determined, Alice begins a systematic search of her room. Under a loose floorboard, an archaeologist's delight, she discovers a journal. The leather-bound kind, pages yellowed with age, written in a hurried cursive that's barely legible. The journal belongs to one Thomas Whitaker, a guest from 1935. His entries detail inexplicable events, temporal anomalies, spectral manifestations, and references to rituals that make the Voynich manuscript read like a children's book. Alice, intrigued, cross-references names and events. Leveraging her access to academic databases, thank goodness for that university alumni login, she uncovers local legends. Hollow Creek Hotel was ostensibly the meeting place for a clandestine group dabbling in the arcane, because what secret society doesn't? The hotel's atmosphere shifts, entropy seems to increase. Objects in her room defy Newtonian physics. A paperweight slides uphill on the desk, a clear violation of the second law of thermodynamics. Mirrors reflect not her image but the room, as it was decades prior. In the window, she sees not the foggy mountains, but a grand ballroom filled with guests in period attire, all staring back at her with expressions that could curdle synthetic polymers. Attempts to reach the outside world are futile. Her cell phone displays a signal strength that fluctuates like a poorly tuned PID controller. The landlines emit static, punctuated with whispers. Other guests are conspicuously absent. The hotel, allegedly full, is devoid of life, aside from the enigmatic staff who seem to phase in and out of existence. Panic sets in, a rational response given the circumstances. Alice decides to leave. However, the Euclidean geometry of the hotel seems compromised. Hallways extend beyond their mapped lengths. Staircases loop in non-Euclidean fashion, a practical demonstration of Riemannian manifolds if ever there was one. Exits are blocked. Doors that once opened now behave as if welded shut. Windows resist her attempts to break them, exhibiting a tensile strength inconsistent with their glass composition. Perhaps some form of laminated safety glass with polyvinyl butyryl inner layers? Unlikely in such an old building. In the grand hall, she encounters the spectral figure of a man, presumably the cult leader mentioned in Whitaker's journal. His presence induces a drop in ambient temperature, confirmed by the condensation of her breath, a classic endothermic reaction in play. He speaks in archaic language, yet she understands, a phenomenon similar to xenoglossy. His intent is clear, to trap her soul, adding to his collection like some metaphysical stamp enthusiast. Clues from the journal indicate a ritual will culminate at midnight, a nexus point perhaps, where the veil between dimensions thins. Alice checks her watch, 11:47 p.m. The countdown begins. Armed with knowledge, always the most potent weapon, she confronts the entity in the grand hall. She recites counter-rituals detailed in the journal, some in Latin, others in languages not spoken for millennia. The entity sneers. "You think words can stop me?" Alice smirks. "No, but disrupting the spatial nodes anchoring you here just might." She overturns specific artifacts placed with geometric precision, an inadvertent homage to chaos theory. Each action destabilizes the localized energy field. The building reacts violently. Oscillations occur at increasing frequencies. A seismic event localized entirely within the hotel's footprint. Lights flicker in patterns that could be Morse code or just failing electrical circuits. Doors burst open. The oppressive atmosphere lifts. Alice seizes the opportunity, sprinting towards freedom. As she crosses the threshold, the first rays of sunlight break over the horizon, heliophysics providing a poetic backdrop. She turns to look back. The hotel now appears abandoned, its grandeur faded. Structural decay is evident. The place looks as though it hasn't seen occupancy in decades. Returning to civilization, if the nearest small town with questionable Wi-Fi can be called that, she attempts to validate her experience. But there are no records of Hollow Creek Hotel in any database, public or proprietary. Even her GPS history is erased, as if she ventured into a Bermuda Triangle of the mountains. Back at her office, surrounded by clippings and notes, Alice pens her story, rich with empirical observations and first-hand accounts. She contemplates submitting it to a peer-reviewed journal, but settles for her travel magazine. Readership statistics suggest a broader impact. "Will anyone believe me?" she muses. "Or will this be dismissed as fiction, a mere disturbance in the collective psyche?" Days later, she receives a package with no return address. Inside lies a single item, a tarnished key bearing the number 237. She holds the key up. It catches the light in an uncanny way. A chill runs down her spine, a physiological response mediated by the sympathetic nervous system. The implications are clear. The experience isn't over. So, dear viewers, next time you book a stay in a secluded hotel with more vacancies than reviews, remember, sometimes the line between curiosity and peril is thinner than a plank length. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, because some stories are too intriguing to keep to yourself.